Precisely, it'll come at the ideal time. But yeah, my guess is most likely in December. I feel like that would be a safe termination. So I have a very interesting setup right now so that I can actually record this or capture this like I want to. But now for the really exciting part. It is time for the wonderful modded N64 unboxing slash teardown. And I was gonna pair music with this, but I don't want this VOD to be muted. And I don't feel like getting royalty-free music because I hate most royalty-free music. So I'm just gonna run this unboxing off of the sultry sound of my voice. Haley, would you be willing to hand me the box? Not that box. That is the wrong box.
No, it's not.
All right. Oh yeah.
Almost grabbed it too. That worked better than I expected.
So here's the box right here that it came in.
All planned out. I think that's
All right. Perfect. So I'm probably going to have to adjust my position a little bit to be able to do this right. Alright. Let me slide up here a little bit here. Yeah. Plenty of packaging material, of course. Here, have that.
Hey!
And here is the goods. The goody goods. Oh, I can't wait to actually get into this thing. Alright, so I had this modded through Retro Fixes. It is RGB modded. Thank you, Retro Fixes, for taking care of this for me. Like I said, this is something I have the capability of doing myself, but I simply just didn't have the time nor the tools to deal with this. Here's some more bubble wrap. So honestly, I feel like this is a plus. I don't know how to JP unlock or region unlock the N64. Oh, it looks so good. It was not this shiny and black when I sent it off, believe me. Oh, the restore. So not only was it modded and region unlocked, it was also cleaned and very much restored. It's looking very nice. The camera doesn't do it justice. Included some nice stickers. Now, let me read this real quick. This is a message. It says, thank you. This console has been restored and upgraded with much care. I hope this system brings years of fun and enjoyment. If you have any questions or concerns, I am here to help. Here you go, Haley. Looks good, looks good. Alright, let's get rid of this bubble wrap. Oh, yeah. Alright, so I'm going to set this aside. Let's see. Did he... Okay, cool. So actually, the Nintendo bits that were in this, I took out like a long time ago and just left them out and never put them back in. And so I'm kind of glad that he didn't replace them. Then that's why the Nintendo bits that I took out of the console years ago. So that's why I asked you to grab these just in case I needed them. I have Nintendo bits. It's just I hate them dealing with having to remember to grab those every time I deal with this, and having to have two different devices. All right, let's begin. So this is basically just, it's going to be a basic teardown, nothing too crazy. I'm gonna remove the shell and the heatsink. This will allow us to get a closer look at the mod and kind of exactly what's going on with the mod. And I'll try to keep this as centered in the camera as possible. This is, like I said, it's kind of a rigged setup. I don't have a legitimate tripod that can go tall enough to capture this the way I would like to. Make sure. Oh, whoops! I'm using the wrong size. That explains why I didn't quite want to go through. Oh, where's my size? Where's my size? These ones I can use. This one. Gently just undo that. Alright, since I got what I need, I'm actually going to put all this, take this out and put all this up and out of the way. Come on, you. There we go. The feeling when you can't quite align with it. There we go. That should be nice and loose. And we're going to remove these two foot pads here. Actually going to set these over here so they won't get messed up, dropped, lost, anything like that. And you'll see I actually have a bit of a system that I'm going to implement to keep up with screws when doing this, because there is several different types of screws that go into this. Is that loosened up? Yeah. Where's the others? Okay. The 1, 2, and those 3. Okay. These are the last ones. Oh yeah, that one I have to get with the precision driver, because that one's just a little too deep to reach with this driver. Come on. Thank you. I always try to be careful not to slip. Alright, anyway. I have adjusted the camera, but this is like the best I could do. Oh, this one. To get adjusted just right. Come on. 10. There we go. I have to be really careful with this one because this precision driver is actually just slightly too small. It's like a half size too small for that. Alright, so now we've got all the screws loosened. We can remove this from the case here. This is the top of the shell. This is just going to go sit over here, which, wow, looks actually surprisingly really good. It's a good look at that there. Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip this over evenly right on here on the towel and try and get the screws out even like in the same place that they went in, basically. There we go. Alright, so you just have to mirror it. These two are the back. The one that went in the middle and between the two. Between the two back ones, and then this one was the one up front, and the foot pad screws are over there. So what I'm going to do with these is just set these over here with the foot pad screws. because the only different screws are the foot pad screws, and then this one here. All right. So now we're going to flip this over and take a look. This right here is basically the heat tray. It's kind of functions like a giant heat sink. The screws we'll be removing to get through all this. We're removing these back ones here, these here. I believe we only have to remove. Was it? It was these two, and I got one over here. I don't think we have to remove any of these. But just to be safe, I'm going to look the chart back up real quick. Where is it at? N64. Yes, I was right. Um, it's these two here. Uh, these two in these holes. These two right here. These two sets of 4 screws. You leave alone. I do have to disconnect these two here in the back, and the one up front here. But which it won't be too much of a challenge. The real challenge for some people is knowing where the screws went when they took them out in the first place. A couple things you can do to help with that is you can actually take progressive pictures. So just like take a moment, take a picture of where you're at, do some stuff, take another picture, do some stuff, rinse and repeat until you're pretty much through your work or your project. And it can be very helpful. That's actually what I did the first time I disassembled my guitar amp, my old guitar amp, to try and fix it. That way I wouldn't forget where anything went, because that thing was a little more complicated than I was expecting. Tube style amps are not fun. Alright, so I'm actually going to work, in this case, from the back of the system to the front. But the way I view it is kind of in layers, so if you kind of set the system up like this, top layer, then layer beneath that, then the layer beneath that, and that's also how to be set on the towel, starting with the top and going down, and then working in reverse to put it back together, which you'll see as we progress. But starting with the topmost screws, which are these two sets of screws here. And these are actually rather tight screws as well, so you have to be careful with these. Yeah. There we go. If in case you're wondering where the mod actually is, it's actually under here. Um, this is actually the AV port right here, and this is the plastic casing around it. Uh, this is the bottom of the board. The mod is actually sitting under this section over here. So we're going to go ahead and take these out. And we'll just set them up here. And this plastic shell here is just going to come pretty much right off once you get it. But in order to take this off, you actually have to take the board out, because the AV out here is kind of in it, like it's like a bit of a tunnel here, so you can't just like pull it out from here. You actually have to get the board out first, and then this plastic shell comes off. I mean, you can kind of wiggle it out if you want to bend and push, but it's honestly much easier just to get the board out first, in my opinion. And also, whenever you're doing something like this, when you're putting it back together, be careful not to tighten the screws too tight because you can actually crack the board. Let me adjust this real quick, and that can be extremely, extremely bad for the board, especially if you crack near a trace. Yeah, and in all honesty, it might just straight up kill the board. And it is possible to repair, but usually the repair doesn't even give the board a fraction of its lifetime back. Alright, we'll take these out now. If I'm not mistaken, these are actually the same types of screws and links as these, so you can put these just right beside it, and that whole section of screws can just be the top layer. So now the next set of screws are going to go under because that's going to be the next layer down, which are actually these 4 screws here. Um, Here, I'll link the page that the guide setup is on. But that's where you'll find the screw guide if you just want to. It's mostly set up so you can just remove this and take a look at your board model to know if the board is compatible with the RGB mod, because it's only compatible on boards with a certain chip, which is the earlier model boards. Which we'll see that in just a minute. This screw is being a little stubborn. Let me see something real quick. Oh, that's way too small. I did adjust it. Let me see if it's slightly bigger. This screw is actually slightly worn out, so let me see if getting a slightly bigger screw head will help. Yeah, let's use this screw head. This is driver, I mean. There we go. That's much better. I think this driver just needs to be sharpened. Alright, so we're gonna go a little quicker here. And we'll put these on the outside. And it helps to keep the screws in basically the same order they were in when you took them out, or the same position. Prevents any confusion when putting them back in. Getting these back in is actually a major pain in the ass. Taking them out is usually not a problem, but once you have to put them back in, it's a whole new ball game. All right. Alright, next is going to be these two right here. And actually you can see your power switch here and your reset button. Which old reset buttons, all they did was just break the circuit. Which is similar to unplugging the device and plugging it back in rapidly. I think the way they do reset buttons on like the N64 and stuff was done differently to be safer. I think it literally just breaks the circuit to the actual cartridge reader as opposed to the whole board itself. Alright, so it's those two, and then that's right, these two. Alright, the next after these two here, the next one's going out are these two right here for the RAM expansion reader. And these in particular, I hate taking in and out because they're so small, and I hate having to mess around with the expansion slot. I don't like getting near this expansion slot whatsoever. They're actually surprisingly long too. Like if you take a look at one here, it's like a inch and a half long or so. And the one coming out besides those is actually right here. Might be kind of hard to see because there's other bits of the heat shield just kind of layered over top of it. So I'll set that beside. Alright, final layer down is actually going to be this screw right here. And that should be the final screw that we have to remove to get the heat shield off. And that's actually going to cause this little piece here to just be loose and want to come off. So we'll go ahead and remove it before it oh, hold on. I'll leave it on for now. Right, that should free up the board here. There we go. Alright, so the big reveal. Here's the other side, and the heat shield just kind of stayed behind there.
Frightened.
I hate this thing. You know. Alright. Thank you. Alright, so if anybody can spot where the mod is, let me know now. Because it's actually it's so well put in place that if you didn't know what the board looked like to begin with, you'd never know what the mod looked like. Like you'd never know where to find the mod at. I'm sure you can probably spot it, Haley. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I want to say the red thing, but I feel like that's too obvious.
But yeah, here's the board. Yes, it is this red piece here.
Oh, okay. See,
This
I
is the
thought that
amp.
was too obvious.
Yeah, this is the RGB amp, and it's wired right here into the RGB circuits. And it's a very sleek, very small, and very well put in place mod. And this is one thing I love about how Retrofix is like. This is like one of the best modding shops I've ever seen as far as work. Like that is just absolutely amazing. You cannot even tell that it's a mod, really. Yeah, this literally it allows for RGB output, which means that you'll get a much better color out of your picture as well as a cleaner picture through analog output, and it's pretty impressive.
All the N64 could be.
At retrofixes.com. Alright, one other thing I wanted to take a look at and show you guys is just the chip that's required for you to have in order to get the mod. And I have to take out these two screws here to show you that. These black screws here. I might have to take out the ones above. Dude, let me double check. No, I'll leave those in. So we're going to set this back in place. Look, like I said, this thing just comes right out once this isn't on it anymore. Should be properly back in place there. Yeah. Alright, let's take these two out. And they're actually going to fall right in between these two sets of screws here. There we go. That one did want to come out. Alright. Simply enough, we just lift the heat shielding off the board. If it will come off. Oh, hold on, I think I missed a screw actually. Oh, once again, let me double check the guide. I got those. Got all of those. Did I miss one down here? Oh no, okay. Yeah, it's just being stubborn then. There we go. Just wanted to make sure before I put any force behind it. There we go. All right. This is the top of the board here where all the chips and everything are. And the one you actually need to look out for to know if you can even do the mod on your board is right here where the red handle is. This itty bitty little chip right here. That should say on it BDC in US or in USA. If it says in US or in USA, it is compatible with the RGB mod, and it can be modded. If it doesn't, there is a mod now that works, an RGB mod for it that works with the other revisions. But it's a slightly different mod, and it also requires a slightly different cable, as I believe you need a sync stripper in your cable in order to use the other mod. But apart from that, that's pretty much all there is to it, and you can see all the chips here. Let's see which one's the processing chip. Between these two, one of these I believe is the CPU and the other is the GPU. I just can't remember which one is which. It's been a while since I've looked at a chip chart for this thing. And the lettering and everything is kind of worn off. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool little piece of tech too. Interesting thing to note is the board was actually the original board revisions for the launch models were built to support RGB output, but at the last moment, Nintendo decided not to include it because they didn't feel like it was necessary. Like, not enough people would have had the capability of supporting RGB output, so they decided to scrap that idea. as they almost always do, scrap something with their designs. And later boards, board revisions took out the ability to support RGB in the way that this one does. So these things could have been made to support RBG from the start by Nintendo themselves, but Nintendo decided not to, in a bit of brilliance. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel that it may us. No, it might not. It kind of.
And now we begin the process of reassembly. Like I said, there wasn't too much to the teardown. I wasn't about to start taking chips off the board and all that like some people can do. I'm not that talented, but I figured you guys might want to take a quick look at the cool mod and kind of what it looks like, and if you were interested in doing the mod yourself or having it sent off to be done, um, is definitely possible, and it's actually not that hard of a mod to do either. Like I said, I was completely capable of doing it myself as far as uh, ability. It's just I lacked the tools and the time. But if you are interested in getting your own mod or getting a DIY kit or even some other stuff that's on the site, you can check out Retrofixes at the URL in the chat. So feel free to check them out. And it's pretty cool because he's actually done mods for quite a few well-known like YouTubers and stuff, including Mike Matei from Cinemassacre. He's modded consoles for him. He actually did modded a Famicom and restored a Famicom for a Nintendo of America employee, which I thought was kind of cool. So yeah, definitely something worth checking out if you're a really big fan of the N64. Something that you loved and you want to get more out of it. You can get RGB or even an HDMI mod. I will say this, that the HDMI mod, as awesome as it is and as much more simple to use as it is an absolute pain to get, and it's rather expensive. It's like almost always sold out. That's actually one of the driving factors that drove me just to get the RGB mod instead of the HDMI mod, was the fact that I didn't have the funds nor the there we go, finally got it lined up, nor the patience to wait. And from what I can tell, it's damn near impossible to get the board yourself or the modding kit yourself, and it's a much more difficult mod to do yourself as well. Damn it. So we'll begin reassembly, basically in reverse order from the way we took these things out. We're going to put them back in. And I realize now I actually didn't need to take out these black screws. I misread the chart, but it's not that big a deal. It's just this piece of metal shielding here that they hold on. Definitely got to be gentle with these. Actually, I prefer using the precision driver on these just because it's a little easier to make sure that I don't over tighten.
Bitch.
And I'm actually going to make a highlight of the teardown and unboxing, so that way anybody that either didn't get to see it or wants to take a look at it again can check it out, and I'll probably throw it on the YouTube channel too. And I'm sorry, like, if it's not the best teardown or unboxing that you've seen. This is actually my very first time doing a teardown type video um, whatsoever, and setting up the camera work and everything for it was like a 2.5 hour process because I don't have a legitimate tripod or boom for which to set this stupid camera up on. And once I show you the rig that I kind of set up, it's gonna be, you might laugh at it, but creativity has its perks sometimes. All right, so here's the part that's gonna be really annoying. It's actually getting these back in place because these are the ones that go in these two holes, and they do not like to cooperate most of the time. And I don't have a magnetic driver anymore because the magnet that was sitting in here fell out some time ago. Um, Magnetizes the screwdriver's head so that the screw will stick to it, basically. And that's hoping that your screws are magnetic. Some screws, especially like screws used in electronics, they'll use non-ferromagnetic screws to avoid like issues and interference, which I hate because it's a pain trying to get them in and out. Just trying to make sure that screw is all the way in. I don't think it quite is yet. Hold on. I think it got slightly cross-threaded. There we go. That should be better. And now it's going in all the way. Okay. Alright. Trying to get this one back in. Yep. And there it is. Just glad that one fell to where I could grab it. Start this 10-minute process. Yeah, alright. Well, it took a couple of tries. There we go. Alright, next layer is right up here. It's going to be these two on the outside. And then the longer ones are going on the inside. Like I said, also got a little bit too much light going on here with this metal. Light exposure is kind of crazy. There we go. And these two. Like I said, the teardown of this thing is actually really simple too. Not much to it besides a few screws and a you will need the Nintendo security bit though, which I'll show what that looks like in a minute. Like I said, I just took mine out and left them out because they're not necessary for anything. Yeah, pretty much. Alright, the final layer, the top layer of screws are going back in. And this one, need to tighten a little bit more. And this one too. There we go. Make sure that's not loose. Nope, it's good to go. And the final two here for the AV plastic shell. Dropping the screw. There we go. Secondly, this one. And there we go. Make sure that's not loose. And also, if there's any like buttons or anything when you put it back together, if there's any buttons and stuff that you can press or mess with, just make sure that they still move freely. Because, like with this system, it's not really much of a problem because they're in their own housing mostly. So there's nothing that could really block them up. But like with some stuff, the switches might be just fit just right into a certain special housing that you have to take off to get to the board or something like that. Which means that if you don't get it on just right, it might hinder the switch from fully moving into its appropriate position, which can be an issue. And then after that, just gonna put the top shell here back on. I'm just gonna line it up. Come on, you. Oh yeah, this wasn't lined up right. There we go. I'm gonna flip it over here and resume putting these in. And this is kind of the home stretch, if you will. Alright. Now, have you noticed the screws are all the same size except for one, I believe, which is slightly shorter if I remember correctly. I think this one might be it. Oh no, never mind. It's the one in the back feet that they're longer actually, I believe. Then we'll just slip these back in place, and we'll start with this middle one. Can I get it in? All right. There we go. There we go. Oops. There we go. Took a little roughhousing and wiggling to get in place. There we go. And there's the final screw, which somehow wound up under the N64. And then after this one, we'll get the feet screws in. The feeties. Get the feet back on. And these screws, if I'm not mistaken, are actually slightly longer than the other screws. If I am mistaken, then oh well, but I do believe so. That should be... Nope, not quite. Hold on a second. Need this to be a more stable surface here. Come on, you. Get in there. There we go. Alright. There we go. I think it cross-threaded a little bit when I first tried to put it in. That's why I didn't want to go in all the way. They don't have to be super tight. Like I said, definitely don't ever feel like you need to tighten them to the point that that you need to like just destroy the system. Just make sure they're nice and solid. Like for the example, for these feet, once you've got it to where these don't jiggle around or move, and you feel like it's a good tight fit, then it should be good enough. For everything else, especially the screws on the board, as long as it's not moving or loose or jiggling, it should be okay. And that's that. We'll set the jumper pack here inside. Nice and solid there. And put the little door on. And there you go. That is the RGB modded N64. No outward modifications done to the case or anything. Literally, it's just an amp put on the board. Now, if you get the HDMI mod, there will be a slight case modification, as it requires the installation of a mini HDMI, which is actually going to be cut out right here, right under the normal AV out. And you can actually, both mods can fit together very nicely in tandem. So you can have an RGB modded N64 and still have it HDMI modded without any issues. So you don't have to worry about that. But that's another thing I liked about the RGB mod, was there's no case modification that needed to be done in order to have it happen. Now, regrettably, I can't test it yet because I still haven't gotten the extra money to get the equipment to actually make use of the RGB mod. I'm still, but yeah, we're one step in the direction, and it's actually partly because of you guys for coming by and the people who have donated and everything towards the N64 goal here. But so I thank you all for that very much. Your continued support and care has not gone unnoticed. I really appreciate it. But yeah, next is getting the. I still need to get the SCART cable that I need for it, as well as the converter box so I can capture it. So basically, the SCART cable is just an end that goes from here, from the AV into a SCART. That's going to go into a SCART to component converter. And what? Anyway, that SCART cable is going to go into a SCART to component converter, which is also going to be an upscaler that'll upscale it to 480p for 480p output, which is going to be really nice. And that's how I'm going to capture this thing. So once I do get all that equipment done, and that's what, like in my other scenes, that's what the tip goal is going towards, is getting that SCART cable and that converter box, because the converter box is about 75 bucks and some change before shipping, and the SCART cable after shipping is about 25 in total. So that's why the goal is so high. But like I said, I'm trying to build up some of the extra money so I can get it done as quickly as possible. I am excited for hopefully getting to do it soon, though. It'll be really nice to finally get to use this thing at its full potential once I do get all the equipment I need. But until then, once again, thank you guys just for showing up. Every time you even watch one of my streams, you're supporting the channel and supporting one of the things I absolutely love doing, which is getting to sit here and play games and chat with people and talk to people and hopefully make people laugh and have a good time. So yeah, I guess we could set this to the side. We'll resume the pad stream, playing with some more Red Athena, and then